seem like very interested in climate stuff. So maybe that's something to pursue. And then I found the Climate and Society program. And it was kind of a natural continuation of what I was doing there, but a little bit more forward facing, I think, future facing, I mean, and something that I felt like would better prepare me for the sort of like policy and development and agriculture sort of lens that I was trying to and am trying to head towards. So that's kind of my background.
Awesome. Thanks, Maya. I had no idea about the pivot. That's a great story. I love a pivot. Chloe, why don't we, if you could introduce yourself next, that would be phenomenal.
Yeah, hi. Hi everyone. I also had a major pivot in my career. So my undergrad was at New York University, just lower Manhattan, and I studied media and communications back then. After graduating, I found a job. It was during COVID, so I went back to China and I got a job in entertainment. And I was there for about relatively less than a year, and I didn't really know what I wanted to do, but I know that I didn't like that job. So I listened to this podcast about on like carbon sequestration technology that's kind of irresponsible. And then I was like, oh, I want to work in environment. Also, like working in environments has always been one of my thoughts, or like one of my dreams when I was younger. So that's why I applied to the climate school.
Awesome. Thanks, Chloe. And then finally, last but certainly not least, Guillermo or Memo, if you could share with us a little bit about your background and how you came to the MA Climate and Society.
Sure. Hi, everyone. Well, a little bit of my background. I did my undergrad in Mexico City. I did my major in sustainable development engineering, which was very broad, but it focused mostly on renewable energy from the engineering side. We also covered some policy aspects, some financial aspects, such as pricing mechanisms for carbon. But in the meantime, I did a couple of internships. I worked with the with the Nature Conservancy, with their water sustainability department. I also worked with the German Sustainable Development Agency, the GIZ, and with the British Embassy when they had the COP26 presidency. And most of the positions focused from the policy side, but they also had some technical aspect when implementing on the ground projects. And before coming to Colombia, I finally did some consulting with a think tank to do some assessment on Mexico's sustainability and incorporate it into public policies. And then I found out about this program. I was really excited about the climate aspect, so I decided to do the process, and I'm here. So
Awesome. Awesome. And then, this is like a question, especially at this stage. We've been working with a lot of our admitted students in different communication, and a question that does come up is the registration journey. And I want to open the floor now. Also, if anybody does have questions, feel free to turn on your camera and start asking. So I want to just invite that at this stage, because we want this to be nice and casual. But cross-registration has come up quite a bit, and understanding what you decided to take as an elective and maybe why, and your experiences doing so. So if, for example, let's see, Memo, if you don't mind, would you share us kind of what you decided to cross-register? And there's so many options, especially with the climate school now offering so many electives as well, which historically didn't happen. And now there's so many electives within the school, but obviously you have this incredible flexibility of cross-registering. Could you share with us what you decided to take?
absolutely, yes. On my first semester, on the fall semester, we only had one elective, and for that elective, I chose a CEPA elective. It was climate stakeholder management. I feel that was one of my favorite electives. The overall structure of the course was really beautiful. It was very interactive. It was just like a reduced like amount of people, so it allowed us to interact like really comfortably. For my second semester, for the spring semester, I cross-registered for two climate. Well, I didn't cross-register, but for only for one, for an engineering class.
Oh,
That,
interesting.
yeah, that I actually had with
Aggressive. Yeah.
that I actually had with Nicklaus. It was I feel that the overall topic was really interesting. It was from the School of Engineering, and it was energy decarbonization for buildings. So it was basically energy efficiency in like heating and electric appliances. So that was really interesting. And my other two electives were from the climate school, also very interesting. And yeah, I feel that so far my cross-registration path was relatively easy given like the instructions provided by the climate school. Once the cross-registration period is coming closer, climate school will email you all the instructions based on what faculty you want to cross-register to, or if you need to email someone specifically to ask permission to be put for that class. So I felt it was really straightforward given the instructions that were provided to us.
Nice. Maya, can you share with us what courses were you kind of enjoying as electives?
For sure. So I guess I'll list them first, just so you all have them in case you want. In the fall semester, I took climate change mitigation. And then in the spring, I took social impact for business, and human rights and the Anthropocene. And the last one, oh, and then I took a SEPA class, which I guess is the cross-registration class. That was called Sustainability Struggles, which was just an agriculture class about specifically US agriculture and why it will never be sustainable. So that one was a great one, and would really recommend that one. And it was also, like Memo was saying, like a really small class, so a lot of discussion, and very like tight-knit kind of group, and people coming from a bunch of different backgrounds. There was some people in international affairs, but then also a couple people in the climate school, a couple people in sustainability management. And I think that that aspect is really great, to just be able to work with people from other schools as well. So would recommend that class if you're interested in agriculture. But a class that really like was unexpected, area of focus for me, but I really, really enjoyed, was the social impact for business class. That class is taught by Caroline Flammer, and it's kind of a combination, an introduction to ESG reporting, corporate social responsibility, and provides, it's like a very case study focused class. So you basically get to read a bunch of case studies about how companies have done well or failed to do well on their corporate social responsibility, and then we discuss like strategies for building off of their successes or navigating their failures, basically. So that class was really great. And then in terms of like the logistics, like as Memo said, I think because in registering for classes that are not climate school classes, obviously the primary school gets first pick, so it can be a little bit stressful when you feel like you maybe are not going to get a class. I'm a big procrastinator, and I feel like for the most part I got all the classes that I wanted, with the exception of one class in the business school that was like climate tech. But so if it's like a really demanding, or like that it's going to be a class that has like a lot of interest, I would like do an email before if you're like really passionate about it. But don't worry, you're gonna get a lot of good classes.
Awesome. Thanks, Maya. And I believe that the climate mitigation course that you took as a elective in the fall semester is now becoming a core course, which
and
is
that's a
super
great
fun.
one too. Yeah. Forgot to
Awesome.
mention, that's a really good one.
That's awesome. Chloe, what was your cross-registration experience like?
Yeah, so in the fall semester, I took a class called Sustainable Forest Management, and it was really, I really loved that class. The professor is really nice, and I went on a field trip to Lamont, and then we kind of examined the forest there, and then see how to calculate like the carbon in the forest. And I really enjoyed that class. But the class was based on one final paper, but it was good. It was good. And for the spring semester, I also took social impact with Maya. I also really enjoyed the class. I think it's a great introduction class. And we had a lot of speakers, but that class we didn't have to register. I think that was under the climate school elective.
Yes.
And I also took a GIS class with engineering school, and I learned the basics of using GIS, which I think is also quite helpful considering I don't really have a environment background. I also took a class with Nicklaus on energy decarbonization. It was a 1.5 credit class.
Okay.
So it was only half a semester, and it was like an hour and a half each week. We also learned a bunch in that class. And then it was in the first half of the spring semester. And so the second half of the spring semester, I also took another 1.5 credit class called Financing Sustainable Development. It was also an introductory class to for the sustainable development major in SIPA, I think. And it was really, really interesting as well.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah, SIPA seems to be a really popular professional school. When I hear the through lines with so many students, the School of International and Public Affairs seems to be super popular. Yeah. And I'm going to go to Nicklaus, but honestly, it sounds like half of you guys cross-registered with Nicklaus in different courses. Nicklaus, is there any course that they did not cover that you'd want to highlight?
Yeah, I mean, to echo your point about SIPA, I did take a SIPA course in the fall called The Political Context of Environmental Management. I just call it like environmental policy management. It was great. Coming from an environmental policy background, it was really easy to wrap my head around. So in the kind of craziness and like high demand of the two core courses that we had in the fall, or the three that we had in the fall, which will look a little bit different for you all as the curriculum is shifting a little bit. It was nice to have something that was like my bread and butter that I could like go to, that was really, really easy conceptually. But kind of wish I would have challenged myself a little bit more in retrospect and taken something outside the box. But besides that, yeah, Memo mentioned the energy decarbonization or building decarbonization class. Chloe mentioned energy decarbonization. And then I took a couple more. I took a new class in SIPA also called UN Development System and Action. And that was really, really interesting. It was taught by a SIPA alum from like 1985, and she's been working for the UN for like 30 years. And she was just the coolest person. And we did a lot of like collaboration with other SIPA students about, reviewing countries' adaptation plans and kind of their climate goals as it relates to the UN and kind of what they're doing for the next COP. So that was pretty cool. And then finally, I'll plug that I took Critical Urban Infrastructure for Sustainable Development, which was a course through the Sustainability Management Program, SUMA. So that course was really, really lovely. It was more humanities-based, more conceptual. It was analyzing a lot of like typologies of environmental justice, like distributional justice, procedural. So that was like additionally kind of with some stuff that had been more STEM heavy for me that semester. It was nice to have something to break it up disciplinary wise. So yeah. I had a really great cross registration journey, and know you'll all find really wonderful courses as you do the same.
Okay, and I'm going to just do one more. I'm so sorry. And then I really do want to allow everybody just to start asking questions. But Nicklaus did a phenomenal job yesterday. He made sure to send everybody the capstone listing for this year, the summer capstones. And I know some of you are pursuing capstones and some of you are pursuing the internship. There's a strong possibility one of you guys or two of you guys might be doing both. I've been hearing an increasing number of students in the learning community that pursue both an internship and capstone. Could we, if you guys, maybe like, let's start with Memo, what are your summer plans? And again, all of the students, all of our admitted students had an opportunity to see those 8 capstone projects. So if you are pursuing capstone, feel free to speak about it as well.
Sure, thank you. I'm gonna be doing an internship. I will do a climate finance internship with Climate Policy Initiative. And they're they're basically focus a lot with climate finance on the sustainable international landscape. And I'm gonna be starting next week actually. So
Excellent. Congratulations. And Memo, how did you navigate the internship search process? How did that opportunity come to be?
It was a lot of support from the class actually, and from Gerald.
Everybody
So
should know Gerald here. Our career development officer is phenomenal. Yeah.
Gerald is wonderful. Their support was always very important. And throughout like most part of the fall semester and the whole spring semester, like a lot of people were sending a lot of like openings, like roles, potential internships, potential full-time positions as well. So what I basically did was just like do a spreadsheet with all of those options and just like check every time that I applied to any of them. So that was really useful. And with Gerald's support, I was able to modify and like update my resume for it to be ready and tailored for those specific positions, and the same thing for my cover letter. And when I started to hear back from some of the potential internships, Gerald also gave me some advice in how to prepare for the interviews. But I also asked a couple of people from the class to like do some mock interviews, which was really useful. And yeah, that was basically how I landed on this internship. It was a lot of support from the community, I must say.
Awesome. And Maya, what are your summer plans now? What are internship, capstone? I'd love to hear it.
Yeah. So I'm gonna do an internship this summer. I'm doing an internship that focuses on climate risk and agriculture in West Africa with the World Bank. And the way that I found that opportunity is actually through my graduate research assistant job that I started. That was like in the whole list of opportunities that get sent to you in the fall. I
Yes.
applied to one that was like it through the IRI, the International Research Institute of Climate Society. And so I've been working for the last 8 months with the financial instruments team. And actually my boss knew this lady at the World Bank who I'd been bothering for like a few months to be like, hi, can you tell me about how you got this job? And he was in DC and he was like, oh yeah, I have this person that I'm working with if you want to like work with her in the summer. So it was like largely through that connection, which was really great. But yeah, and then also to echo like Memo's point, Memo still sends me jobs. Like there's so many, there's so much help like throughout the like student cohort, and then with the administration team and Gerald, so that if people know like what your interests are, they'll always pass it along, and that has been like a great help, especially in the job search. You don't feel like you're alone, and also it's like such a big cohort that you feel like everyone is doing it with you, so that takes away the stress too.
Awesome. Yeah, your story just speaks to the power of the Columbia network too.
Yeah,
Like,
for
it's
sure.
incredible.
Yeah.
And just to make sure we clarify for our incoming class, what Maya secured was a graduate research assistantship. The name has now changed to departmental research assistantship, just to avoid any confusion. But those opportunities, the MA Climate and Society is now soliciting different research centers across Columbia, soliciting job proposals or research assistant proposals, and you'll learn about those opportunities in the first like weeks of the fall semester, and you typically begin that work in October. Awesome. So, and Chloe, what is your plans for the summer? Internship, capstone? Love to hear it.
Yeah, so I am actually doing a capstone. I'm doing the Time Seal 2 capstone. And we just had our meeting this Monday, so everything's just getting started, and we're learning about what we're gonna do for this capstone. And on the side, I'm also doing a volunteer kind of job with Thanks-a-thon. It was also I found this opportunity through a alumni, Tessaria, who came in our last class for applications. Yeah, and then we just basically talked about this opportunity, and I was able to get a volunteer role there.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. And out of curiosity, how often do you meet for the capstone course? I'm
I
just curious.
think we meet once a week on Zoom,
Got it.
but it was just for like a meeting with the professor, and we would also meet with the team and also with the clients
Excellent.
sometimes. But it was we only had one meeting so far, and we're still learning about the whole process.
Of course, yes, early in the journey.
Yeah,
And
but also, but I just want to point out that the capstone class is really well organized. Like they have a handbook and a syllabus that's really structured to tell you what to do and what's required, what's needed, what's the deliverables during this project, and it was really detailed.
Awesome. And then Nicklaus, tell us about your internship and your work. It's fascinating.
Yeah, absolutely. I kind of have a pretty untraditional journey in how I secured my summer internship. So I had been working for the National Wildlife Federation for the past semester as a research consultant with a colleague in the program as well. So she and I were working together, developing a report about ocean-based carbon dioxide removal strategies, and we were interviewing a lot of companies that were kind of currently engaged in a lot of stuff, compiling like essentially a literature review of just the current status of what had been going on. So I was sitting in the main office in the forum one day talking to Gerald about potential companies that I could interview, and they told me about this huge funding thing through Frontier Climate, which is dispensed through Stripe, which is like an e-commerce platform, and they're kind of assigning different like carbon offsets to companies that have committed to be able to remove CO2 from the atmosphere. And so I just like begun doing some digging, found this company called Sella Mineral Storage, who was co-founded by a postdoc researcher at Lamont. So she works at Columbia. She lives like maybe like 20 blocks south of me. So I read more about what they're doing, what their goals are as a company. It's very, very new. They just had their like 1 year anniversary of like being incorporated as a company officially. And I was really on board with what they were doing. So I wrote them an email and I developed a proposal saying, I want to help build out your tax credit plan and policy plan over the summer, and with particularly also with Class 6 well permitting injections application for that with the EPA and environmental compliance. So they were really receptive to that. And I said, I'm a graduate student, I have to do an internship or a capstone. I think this would be really, really interesting. And I got an offer after interviewing a couple of times. And so it wasn't like a necessarily very traditional application process of going on LinkedIn and finding something and going through a round of interviews, more so kind of me developing kind of what my track would be over the summer. And I'm going to a little like happy hour later today that's about carbon removal professionals working in New York City, which will be really exciting. So it's already kind of afforded me some cool opportunities of networking with other people working in climate and particularly climate mitigation in New York. But I'm hopefully going to Nairobi in September through the internship as well, because that's where the other co-founder is based and where they're getting their first pilot project off of the ground. So there'll be representatives at Africa Climate Week the first week of September. So I have an open invite to that, but I'm still trying to secure the logistics of going. So yeah, no, I'm pretty excited about that. And just echoing the kind of like self-initiative and being able to research things that will work for you and really being able to I don't know, be your have your own best interests in mind, I guess, and searching for an internship or a capstone positions. I will flag that like I'm going to be really, really busy this summer with this position because I'm kind of wearing a lot of different hats. But the capstone projects look so cool that I'm just really jealous that people are getting to do some really cool ones. And I know that they'll all kind of culminate in really, really amazing work. And I'm excited to see what they do. But I wish I had enough time to be able to do both, but I just don't. So yeah.
That's awesome. They do look really exciting. I'm from the Tampa Bay area, and I noticed News Channel 8 down there is partnering with Lamont Doherty on one of the capstones. So I got very excited, overly so. So excellent. So Does anybody now, I'd really love to welcome anybody to turn on their camera and go forth and ask a question. It can be even related to transitioning to New York, for example, what an apartment search looked like for any of our panelists. Feel free to ask away. Don't be shy. I'm begging you. Go for it, Asta.
Hi, sorry, my internet is a bit unstable, so I'm not going to turn my camera on just in case. But thank you everyone for all of your guidance and information. It's been really helpful so far. It's kind of already been mentioned a little bit, but I was wondering if you have any tips on deciding which electives to take specifically in terms of each semester, because I know that both of them are quite heavy and have different kind of aspects involved, and especially as a humanities student, I'm quite apprehensive about the first term and making sure that I don't give myself too much to do. So I'm wondering if there's a way that we can find out about how much work the electives are and how they're formatted, for example, before the registration process begins. And yeah, just any tips on that would be really great.
If I could just do a little intro, and then I want everybody to feel free to join us. It's such an astute question. And one thing that we did do with the evolution of the program, we've shifted one of our classically more quantitative courses to the spring semester. So we've tried to balance out the fall and spring semester to be a little bit more equal in terms of the classic kind of quant demands, if you will. So you still are going to have dynamics, which is going to be a thrilling and exciting course all about kind of the science and understanding the science behind climate change globally. But then your data course, which is largely using statistics in RXL, is now going to be shifted to the spring. So I think that's going to help certainly with balance, and just I want to put your mind at ease from that standpoint. But that's not addressing your exact question. So I want to make sure. Does any of our panelists have any words of wisdom or advice, especially for a student that's pivoting from a non-STEM background into this program?
I mean, I can just quickly interject. I think besides the kind of elective journey, which I'm sure I could touch on, or one of my colleagues could talk a little bit more about, but in terms of kind of coming in from a different background and being a little bit apprehensive about some of the STEM requirements through dynamics or quant, like I would say don't worry about it. That's like a very short way of saying it, but there's a lot of really, really wonderful resources to take advantage of to make sure that you succeed in these courses and really feel like you're doing well and understanding what's going on. Particularly a lot of the office hours that are being held by teaching assistants and by professors directly, go to them as much as you can. Those were truly the most instrumental parts of the fall semester for me, and I know that they're breaking it up now, as Alfred mentioned, into 2 semesters, so the workload should be delegated a little bit differently and distributed through the year a little bit more differently. But I think take advantage of those hours. You could probably culminate at least 2 to 3 extra hours per week outside of class to spend with people to talk about this stuff. Even if you're understanding it really, really well, I would say go talk to people, make sure that that you're talking about. Explaining how something works to someone else always helps you understand it a little bit better as well. So I'd say take advantage of those office hours, ask questions. They're going to be there for that hour regardless of whether you show up or not. So I would say really, really take advantage of that and work with other students. Everyone is really, really keen to collaborate, and like we've mentioned, it's a really vibrant learning community. It's very supportive. So just be sure to make strong relationships with your cohort, and I'm sure you'll be fine in transitioning that aspect. But that's kind of beside the point of your question. So I'll let someone else tackle that if they want to.
I can jump in just for the part of the electives. The first 2 weeks of the start of the semester are usually really flexible. So you can add and drop courses, which gives a lot of flexibility because you can go to one of the courses you're kind of thinking about it in terms of like if you like the content and how intensive it can be. And you can sit there and see the presentation of the syllabus, how it's going to be like the class structure. And if you feel like you're like vibing with that class, then you can stay or you can drop it and just add a different one. So I felt that was a really useful aspect for my journey.
Thanks, Memo.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Oh,
sorry.
Oh my
No,
gosh, Asta,
thank
please.
you.
No. I'm going to stop talking. Yeah, let's continue the questions because they're phenomenal. I really encourage, please.
Go ahead, Amal. You're good.
Okay. Hi everyone. Congratulations on your internships and capstones. All of them seem really exciting. I'm super excited for you. And also congratulations on your graduation. I've been seeing on Instagram and the post looks super cool. So I had a few questions. The first was I remember I had a similar concern because I also come from like a humanities background. So like pivoting towards science courses and quant courses was also like intimidating to me. So I remember like in earlier conversations, it was mentioned that over the summers, some material gets shared with us to like study for it beforehand or something. So I was wondering if there's anything of that sort and when that becomes available. The second question I had was that when do the GRA positions become available? Because I think in one of the sessions it was mentioned that it's going to happen in like May or June and not September this time. So those were two questions I wanted to ask.
I can try to tackle that if that's okay. So with the GRAs, just quickly, I think the way that they're doing it in the fall is a little bit different than what my cohort and I kind of went through. So the way that it looked for us was that we kind of were able to apply to the list of GRAs that was being offered for the fall around our orientation, like right before the semester started. I think the way that they're doing that now is there's going to be orientation. You'll start the semester, get kind of situated for a couple of weeks, and then those opportunities are going to be shared with you. I don't think it's going to be as simultaneous at the start as we conceived it to be. Alfred, is that correct with what you and I've talked about recently, or am I?
Yeah, well, I'll definitely, what I'm going to do, Amal, is I'll double check with our academic affairs team in terms of the releasing of those opportunities. Forgive me if one of our sessions noted it would be sooner. I don't believe it will be. I don't think they're going to be releasing the departmental research assistantships in, for example, July, but I will absolutely double check with my colleagues. I know, for example, that they're soliciting the opportunities internally within Columbia University at this stage. So right now they're getting applications from different research centers that are saying, yes, I would love a departmental research assistant, and I'd love it if the Climate and Society program funds it. And they're going to be selecting, but I'll find out the exact nature of when it is released. The other element, Amal, that you asked, which is such a good question, and additional communication is supposed to begin in June from our academic affairs team as it relates to course planning. And yes, there was a kind of math boot camp, a self-paced math boot camp that was made available to our students last summer that will be made available again this summer. The exact timeline of when that's going to be released, and I'm so sorry I'm speaking in such like nebulous terms, but I promise I'm going to get more concrete. I believe that's earmarked for July release, but actually, does anybody, Chloe or Nicklaus, Maya, Memo, does anybody want to share? Did anybody take advantage of that math kind of boot camp material? Can you talk a little bit more about it? That also might be helpful for them all.
Yeah, I can jump in. Yeah, I think that if I remember last year for us, it was released like maybe mid-July sometime, end of July maybe. So there was at least a month that there was an opportunity to work through the stuff. It did not take a month. And it's definitely like setting you up for the basics. Like if you have not done any STEM stuff in a while, maybe like that while was like high school, it'll kind of be the bridge to getting you all set up for the courses. Another really good thing that what they've done with your cohort is like in splitting up the dynamics class and the quant class, I think it also means that you have a little bit more time, if you feel like you need that extra time to prepare, quant is pushed into the next semester. So you can kind of focus on like the stuff that you might need, like the math stuff that you might need for for dynamics. And then as you get like set up with that, then start thinking a little bit about how you might like tackle R and all of that stuff too. But yeah, there's like a lot of anticipation because you're like, what can I do ahead of time to prepare? But I think that the materials that we got were not like super crazy or like very, very challenging. And I think if you just work through those, you're in a really good spot to start the semester, and don't like overexert yourself to feel like you need to super prepare. If you got those down, you're good.
Thank you. That answers that.
Thanks, Amal, and I promise I'll get more concrete dates for you very soon.
Sure.
I promise. Any other questions? I'm so sorry. I should look at, or yeah, I'm sharing my screen, so I don't want to look at the chat box and then cover anything. But Nicklaus, do you see any other questions coming in?
Not at the moment, but anyone.
Oh, Ricardo, let's do it. I want to hear from Ricardo.
Oh, hi. Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Actually, I have a question about the capstone project and the internship. So my understanding is that during the summer semester, you can do either or both. So my question is, what do you guys think are some good things to take into consideration when thinking about whether doing either the internship or the capstone project or both? What are your thoughts on this?
I can jump in. I think personally, I'm apprehensive. I would not do both. I think that's a lot of work. If you want to do both, maybe you can. But I think I would start like in the spring semester looking at job opportunities, see kind of what's out there and what is of interest to you. If you feel like there's something really niche that you want to explore, like for me, I knew that I wanted to focus on agriculture and that's what I want my kind of career to be. So that was a lot of the direction that I was looking in. And I think that if you have like a specialization in mind, it can be really valuable to kind of start the job search, see what's out there. That being said, one of the capstones is ag focused. All of the capstones are very diverse in their subject matter. So there will always be something that I think like appeals to at least one or two of your interests. And I think in regard to like which one you would be inclined to choose, I think I was leaning towards internship because I'm interested in starting my career immediately after. And I felt like this would be a good way to like get a foot in the door if I particularly knew like where I wanted to specialize in. With that being said, the capstone offers like a lot of variety and ability to continue to collaborate with your peers, and also kind of gives you an opportunity to explore maybe areas that you wouldn't traditionally find yourself in. So if you kind of wanted to do like you did all your coursework and then you were like, oh, actually this is very interesting to me, I want to like see where this goes and I want to continue to work together with your peers and explore like really cool opportunities that like just come through the climate school. I think that that's really valuable too. And in terms of like richness of experience, I would say that they're pretty equal. So whatever avenue you feel really like compelled and excited about, I would say both have merit.
Yeah, I just
Thank you.
want to
That's really
add
helpful.
yes, sorry. So I just wanted to add on that I was also looking at both internships and capstones throughout the spring semester, and I realized that the capstones are actually, because you guys professors supervise you and you actually work with a client who's from the industry, and I think that would be really great experience learning from, although it's a capstone, it's also kind of like an internship, I think.
Mm-hmm. Also, just add another point that I was thinking about regarding this is that some people coming into a master's program may be looking for a more comprehensive research experience. And since this is not a thesis-based master's program, it's a pre-professional development centered master's program, you don't necessarily have a huge work culminating your time here. So with the capstone being an opportunity to have some kind of deliverable, if you were looking to build out a portfolio, especially if you'd like to go into climate consulting or something, that's a really, really good muscle to exercise by doing the capstone. But also the caveat is those are not paid positions. I particularly sought an internship as well because I was very keen on getting paid. And I think that's an important distinction to make, and it's all about your own, I guess, personal affordances and wherewithal to be able to make a commitment like that. But yeah, that was and also similar to Maya, that like I'm very keen on starting a career directly afterwards, and wanted to kind of water my garden on like what I had control over, you know. So yeah, that's just another point that I wanted to add. But thanks for your question.
Thanks, Nicklaus. And one thing I'll just note too, Ricardo's asking the idea of taking both, and there is a number of our students, forgive me, nobody on this panel specifically is doing both, but there is a number of our students that have pursued both last year as well as this year. The academic function of that is that if you do decide to pursue both an internship and a capstone, the capstone would be the coursework or the experience that's going to count towards the 6 credits towards your degree. That's one thing that's very important to note, because it is it's obviously a team-based project. There's a great deal of expectations, and they want to make sure that you take it, you know, very, very seriously as it relates to that capstone. So if you do wish to pursue both, the capstone would be the 6 credit hour opportunity. And the only other thing I just want to note, and at some point we'll go through questions too, but you can also take courses during the summer semester. The tuition that you are paying in the summer also affords you the ability to take up to 20 credit hours. And we are offering some really interesting and dynamic electives here at the Climate School, also obviously across the university. So in fact, how many of you guys on the panel, who's doing I know Nicklaus, you're doing an elective in the second term. Maya, Chloe, Memo, anybody going to do electives this summer?
Yeah, I'm also doing one the second.
Excellent.
Second.
Excellent. Okay. Yeah. Oh, forgive me. I didn't want to cut anybody off. All right. Let me let's move on to another question come down.
Yeah, Farida, you're welcome to go. Have your hand raised.
Okay, thank you so much, everyone, for your time and great tips that you shared with us. So my question is that, like, what advice do you wish someone had given you before starting this program? I mean, I know it's like a general question, but I want to like know, what do you think about this? Thank you.
I suppose I can go. I have a short answer. And I see Varun on the call, and he heard me say this the other day, so I'm just going to reiterate something that he and I talked about one-on-one. But it goes by really, really quickly. It's I think all of us, when we got to graduation, were like, wait, excuse me? Like, this was just a very, very quick turnaround. It kind of feels like a dream that you wake up from, because it's kind of an intense short year. So my advice for that is like really, really dig in, really take advantage of all the opportunities, make friends with people in your cohort and spend time outside of classes with them to be able to like enrich your experiences that can only add to your coursework and your collaboration with them in the room. But yeah, I don't know. I wish I would have. I mean, academic performance was great, but I think there's a difference between kind of being pressed for time and completing assignments for the sake of completing them, rather than really taking a lot of the lessons that you can always kind of get from them. And it's easier to say that in retrospect, rather than like while you're in the middle of the throes of it and you have like a million things due at once. Not to say that to like scare anybody, but like, it's a master's program. Like you have to come in with a little bit of like preparation to do some work. So I think, yeah, just really, really digging in and kind of finding those moments to like check in with yourself and say like, okay, am I getting what I want out of this? Am I really enriching myself with both the academic and the personal experiences that I can kind of draw from? So I would say just, yeah, that's it. Dig in, like really, really put your feet in the ground and like, and take advantage of the year, because it'll go by much more quickly than you think. But that's more of like a sentimental little answer. I don't know if that's like exactly what you wanted. So.
Well, I think one advice that I wish, or I kind of knew this, but I think is to be present, like to go to as many events as you can, because Columbia offers a lot of events, and like our classmates also, like people are involved in different areas, and they know different events happening around the city or online, and they'll share it with the cohort and just attend different events and learn about the work behind. I think it would be really great.
Yeah, I think I agree with Chloe and Nicklaus's point about that, especially in the first few weeks. I think all of us were kind of feeling that way of like, oh, there's so much has changed. There's so like we've just started school, and there's a lot of like, especially at the beginning of the semester, there's a lot of really cool events. Like New York Climate Week is that like in September at some point. And I remember feeling like I couldn't go to that because there was so much else going on. Go to those things. Like everything like kind of evens out. It becomes a lot more manageable. The other thing I would recommend is a lot of the like end of year bigger projects are really cool opportunities to start thinking about like how would they be things to boost your resume. So if you have like a final project in mind, or that's coming up, think about like how that would make you like an expert in that particular topic, or what type of topic you want to choose that would support you like in applying for jobs, and like be intentional about how to like leverage work that you're going to be doing anyway for down the road when you're applying to things as well, would be my recommendation.
Maybe mine is kind of linked to what Nix was saying in a reply earlier in the call, but it's make the most of the wonderful resources we have available for the classes. Like for the classes that could seem challenging, such as quants, dynamics, we have endless office hours from the multiple TAs we have. You can also go to the other group TA sessions. The professors are very available as well. So I feel that for me, the first couple of weeks of the fall semester were like shocking in terms of, am I gonna be able to make it? And that didn't allow me to fully enjoy the being at Columbia and in New York experience. So just try to not to worry as much on the academic aspect, because we have a lot of support and a lot of resources.
Excellent. And I see Ricardo had another a hand raised as well.
Okay,
Oh, thank you, Farida. Yeah, sorry, thank you. That was such a
sorry.
good question.
Yeah, thank you so much. It was really helpful. Thank you so much, everyone.
Yeah, I guess I just had a question. Maybe what advice can you give for an incoming international student coming to New York City? For someone that has never been in the US, what was the experience for an international student? What sort of advice would you have to transition into life at Columbia and these kind of things?
Another excellent question.
I can jump in. I feel that from all the cities we can move to, New York is one of the most friendly cities because it's very international. Like, you can find a lot of availability for different parts of the world in terms of food, like events, like community, and specifically in Colombia, there's a huge community of international students. So on my experience, what was really helpful was reaching out the Mexican Student Association in case I was feeling like homesick, or just to ask for references of where to find like good Mexican food. That helped me a lot. And to also speak like my native language, like some Spanish every here and then was really nice. In terms of practicalities, of like if you want to seek any advice on the visa status and what are the next steps, The ISSO office is always available, and you can ask for an appointment, one-on-one appointment, to ask any specific questions you may have. I found that really useful. The site itself is really pretty straightforward for most of the questions I had at that time, but for any left question, I just like schedule a one-on-one appointment. And I hope that was helpful.
Yeah, from me, I don't know if you guys have already found housing yet, but I live in International House, which is across the street from Columbia, and it's really close to the forum where we have our classes. And International House is basically not a dorm affiliate with Columbia, but it's most residents there are from Columbia, and I think it's 60% international students and 40% American students. Is meant to have people mingle and stuff, and it's quite cheap. Yes, that's the link there. It's not as expensive as other places, and you have a dining hall and you have a basketball court and gym, and you don't need to pay for like agent fee. You don't need to pay for your electricity or water, so it's really nice. Yeah, highly recommend International House.
Thank you.
Yeah, I had a question regarding housing actually. Like I just started looking at it. I'm just wondering like how many months in advance should you start looking at it, and by when should you ideally be done with, sorting that out?
Well, I guess I'll chime in and say the New York housing market is like one of the scariest kind of phenomenons that exists ever. And I don't mean to say that to dissuade you or make you scared or anything. It is just
Please don't panic, everybody, because that's an authentic response.
I know I'm just keeping it real because I'm moving out of my apartment that's close to Columbia, and I'm also searching for housing right now elsewhere in New York, planning on staying here, and so I'm just kind of very very awoken to like that sobering truth. But that being said, there's not really a one size fits all answer. A lot of stuff. If like you're trying to sign a lease or something, or find like a room in an apartment to sublease from somebody, if someone has a room opening up in their place, it's all kind of on a disjointed timeline. But like I think around this time last year was when I secured my apartment for beginning of August. But again, like some people thought that was a bit early on the timeline because things just have such a quick turnaround here that like I would say the standard is probably a month out, is like knowing where you're gonna live like a month in advance. But some people have like boiled that down to 2 weeks, and it's a really quick turnaround. So I hate to like not give you a more concrete answer, but it just the leasing and like more public market, I guess, that exists outside of the, I guess, Columbia help of being able to navigate a lot of living resources is pretty intimidating at times. But I think with a lot of the resources that Columbia has, like the off-campus housing assistance page that Alfred just shared, and like iHouse and stuff, like there's a lot of resources to be able to find housing and people to work with you on that. I think the off-campus housing authority, they offer one-on-one appointments like as on a consulting basis, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know if it's one-on-one appointments, but like you can definitely reach out and they'll help you, I think, because they understand how large of a student body is at Columbia, but how limited resources there are to be able to dispense housing to every single person through the university. So that's kind of why that office exists, is to be able to help navigate that interface. So I mean, I'd say if you have any pressing questions when I get started on the search, reach out to them, and I'm sure that they'd be happy to help out. Yeah, I hope that's helpful, and I don't mean to dissuade you by any means, but just kind of being real about it, because it's a little scary at times.
Thank you.
Yeah, I got my lease signed 2 weeks before school started, so it was down to the wire for me. I think especially if you're international, start earlier. Like I was looking probably mid-July, but it took me like a month or so to find something that was really like that made sense. I was also like looking to move at the very last minute though. So I think if you're planning to come a little bit early, like signing a lease in August, starting like end of June, beginning of July, and really, really looking then, I think could be a good plan. But that's also like the time that I think in this area, particularly as students are like ending their lease, that is also like a very natural time for it to start as well. So looking at that second link that Alfred shared, I was like on there every day, kind of just seeing what was up, who had places that were empty, and then also looking on Facebook. I found my place like on Facebook Marketplace and just hopped on like an existing lease, which was like the cheapest, so I didn't have to pay like a broker's fee or anything, and that worked out good.
A couple I do want to, because Chloe did plug it and I went ahead and copy and pasted. I've heard positive things about iHouse too, just for our international students, because it's safe, it's right near campus. I think they keep things, Chloe's, talking about kind of the ease of how the process worked in terms of moving in. I know for a fact, not just international students, there is another one of our US students is actually living there as well. So at least two of you guys are there. So just throwing that out there too, if you want to take a look at iHouse, it could be, if you're looking for kind of a very seamless, Chloe, correct me if I'm wrong, furnished option where you don't have to think as much. That's something, just throwing it out there.
Yes, I think iHouse is a great place. And they have so many events every week. And yeah, also Columbia Housing could be another option, which is pretty nice.
I do want to apologize to everybody about the housing. I know that the Columbia apartment housing is in such demand, and we were only there's just more demand than we have supply. So for those of you that applied that might not have been offered it, I do apologize. We just had such a limited number of slots. So. Any other questions? I know that we're running over, but maybe one more. Go for it, Ricardo. Ricardo, you're like our star incoming student. I love these questions.
Sorry, I hope hate to be that person always asking questions. I apologize to everybody. Now, I just had a question about the orientation. I do remember that you did write in the Slack group that it will be in the final week of August. Just wondering whether there were any updates about that, or whether we should just sit tight and wait for updates from you.
Excellent question. Sit tight, but I will say what they're anticipating doing is a 2.5 day orientation, which is very different. Our panelists had like kind of one long day at the forum in the auditorium. This coming year, Justine Herrera, who's our Senior Director of Graduate Programs and was on the call earlier, indicated that they are planning for maybe a 2.5 day event. And forgive me, I do have the date that she furnished me. Actually, Nicklaus, did you have it on you? I'm so sorry. Let me see something here.
I literally just sent it to somebody yesterday, and it's totally out of my brain now.
Yeah, but hold on, guys, stay with me. If everybody just remains patient, I apologize. One moment. Let's just see. Feel free to talk amongst yourselves as I look this up.
I know, I'm going to look up too, just because I feel silly that I can't remember the date off the top of my head.
Yes, so tentatively, it's going to, they're saying tentatively in August 28th, and run it through August 31st. It'll start on the 28th and through the 31st. That's quite a time span. Again, nothing has been set in stone, but one thing that Justine suggested is making sure international students should arrive at least 1 week prior. So you should, if you're going to have a target date in mind in terms of when you're going to be in the US, we would recommend coming August 21st. just to give yourself some time to settle. I do know, and I don't know if Chloe, Maya, Memo or Nicklaus remember, there were some of the students in the cohort, it was almost like they were moving in during orientation, and that can be incredibly stressful. And we don't want to see that happen. We don't want you on the phone with a landlord trying to secure a key between, you know what I mean, like a session on course registration and career planning. You know what I mean? We want you to have a little bit more of a settled experience. Dana, I see a hand go up.
Hi.
Hi, Zane. Are you still in Lebanon?
I am. I am.
Oh,
I'm in
great.
the coffee shop right now.
Awesome. Awesome.
Yeah, sorry, that's why I kept my camera off. I was wondering, do we have a date for orientation yet?
So we just, yeah, I know this is like the $1 million question. So the date that they anticipate is it would be on August 28th and running through August 31st. So it would be occurring over several days. Think about just target in your mind last week of August, block it for yourself for orientation days. The day used to be just one day, and now it's become, they're planning on hosting it over like 2.5 days. This is what's been shared with me.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
And just one more question, because I do want to thank our panelists, but I only asked them to stay with us for an hour, and so they're being very charitable in the moment. Any other questions? Okay. Well, I want to thank Nicklaus, Maya, Memo, Chloe. Thank you so much for lending your voice and sharing your perspective with our incoming class. And to all of our students, congratulations again on your acceptance. We are thrilled you decided to join this learning community. I think it's going to be a phenomenal experience for all of you. I have to say, just side comment, I'm tickled pink whenever I see like this audience where we have nearly every continent represented here, and it just makes me feel, it's like such a feel good, and it kind of warms my spirit in terms of the work that we do. So thank you, everybody. If you have additional questions, if I owe you an email, keep me honest, send me an email, okay? And I promise you, I know like Amal and Ricardo and Dana were asking very specific questions that I don't have the exact answer to, like, give me exact orientation date, give me exactly when, for example, the math prep materials are shared. As soon as I have that, we will make sure that you guys get that information. And the final thing I just want to note, the final thing is, if you have not already activated your uni, please do so. I know that my academic affairs team has shared with me that they're planning to start communicating with you through your Columbia email during the first week of June. So activate that uni. I believe everybody here has, but if in order to activate the uni, you have to submit your tuition deposit, and then you'll get a uni, from the Columbia University. Almost everybody here has. I think there may be 1 or 2 students that haven't submitted yet. But once you have that uni, activate it to access your Columbia email. That's like the final message I want to give. But thank you so much to all of our panelists. I really appreciate it. Thank you, guys. Take care, everybody.
Bye. Thank you.